Hey guys, I decided that I want to get more into fairy tales, and that's because I really love fairy tales, because fairy tales are a manifestation of our unconscious and they overlap a lot with dreams. And as you probably know by now, I have my own business in dream interpretation. So you can go to my website and you can book a Zoom session, and then we can get into your dream, and you will gain more profound understanding of your own unconscious. And so in the same way I explain dreams, I want to explain fairy tales in the next few videos. And I wanted to start off a little bit like easy because, well, most people have already seen the Disney movies. And so it's easier to explain it then, because otherwise I first have to explain the whole fairy tale itself and then give the explanation. So I want to keep it short and simple this time. Okay, so let's get started. The first story that I want to explain is the story of the Little Mermaid. In my video on the animus and anima, I explained that we're always seeking for balance between the masculine and feminine, because then creativity is possible, then life is possible. Whereas when there's an imbalance, then it's sick and it dies. So there always needs to be this balance between the masculine and feminine. And most often in fairy tales, it's the whole story about the feminine and masculine looking for each other and eventually finding each other. But they start off in a situation in which there is no balance. And so this is also the case in The Little Mermaid. So we have the feminine, that is Ariel, and the masculine, Prince Eric. But also something you should keep in mind is that you should always see things relative to the other thing, let's say. So if we talk about heaven and earth, then heaven is masculine and earth is feminine. But if you look at earth and then you can see, like, okay, there's the sea and there's land, but then the sea is feminine and land is masculine. But if you look at the land, then there is, civilization, and there's nature, like culture and nature, where culture is masculine and nature is feminine. So you should always see things in relation to one another. So if we look at the Little Mermaid, then she's in the ocean, which is typically a feminine thing because it's the unknown. But in the ocean there is this civilization, which is, like the mermaids, and that's culture, that's the masculine thing. And then we can see that there's a king, King Triton. It's the father of Ariel. So in the ocean we have the king, and the king, he is old, he has a beard, and there's no queen. But as we can often see in fairy tales, when there's just one king and there's no queen, that means that the queen has been repressed into the unconscious. When the feminine is being repressed into the unconscious, she becomes like a witch. And that's, the same with the shadow. If you repress the shadow in your unconscious, it's going to be your enemy. And once they're being repressed in the unconscious, they are being forgotten, and then they will use tricks and maybe like violence to become conscious again. So we can see that then there's this sea witch, Ursula, and she's the feminine that has been repressed into the unconscious. There's no room for her, and she's a sea witch, of course. She's very mean. And then Ariel, she's actually looking for a new world. She has all these objects, like a statue and a fork and all these tools from the human world. and she's longing for some kind of update of her culture, because she can see, like, okay, this is not enough. Her culture is kind of old and dying, because her father is old, he has this long beard, and and she wants it to be updated. And then she collects all these things, but it's dead. And that's also the case with Christianity, for example. When you just go to church and you just say a standard prayer, and that's it, then it's dead. Then you can't really use it. Then it's like the collections of Ariel. You can't use it. And so she wants to be part of that world. She wants to live it. And that's also in Christianity. Once you start to live it, once you start to experience the religion, then it becomes alive, and then you can actually use it. And so she wants to become part of the world of Prince Eric. And therefore she goes to the sea witch Ursula. And Ursula, she's also some kind of devil, because she makes this contract with Ariel. But also she made contracts with other people, and this is what the devil does, like he makes you sell your soul to give you whatever you want, whether it's fame or money, like it's always something that you shouldn't get easily, and you should actually deserve it. But if you make a deal with the devil, then you didn't deserve it, and then you got it really easily. But then you will have to pay the price, and the price is your soul. You will have to sell your soul to the devil, and then you will get whatever you want. And this is what Ariel does. She kind of sells her soul. It's her voice. But the voice, the voice is the word. And the word is God. And the word is the Logos. The word is Jesus. That's why her voice is a very divine principle in this story. And she just sells it like that, And then she becomes part of his world, of Prince Eric. And so Prince Eric was once saved by Ariel. And all he remembers is her voice, the Logos, the divine inspiration. Ariel is a typical anima figure, because she has red hair and she's a mermaid, like that's a really typical anima thing. But it's not real, in the sense that there is such a thing as an anima, but the anima is not a person. The anima is an ideal. And so Prince Eric, he's in love with an ideal. He's not in love with a person. And he was inspired by this voice, by the Logos, by the divinity of the ideal. And so he has this inspiration, because that's what the anima ultimately is, and divine inspiration for the man. And then she disappears, of course, and then he keeps looking for her, because he wants to find this divine feminine ideal again. And well, then Ariel makes sure that she becomes part of his world, but then she loses her divine part. She loses her voice, the Logos, and then she becomes human. But Eric isn't interested in a human. He's interested in the ideal, the divine ideal. And she's not that anymore. She's a person with legs and all her weird habits. And then Eric, he keeps looking, and then eventually he thinks he found her. But that's Ursula. She disguises herself as a pretty woman, and then she uses the voice of Ariel to kind of mesmerize Prince Eric. But as we can see there, because she is a sea witch, she's a witch, she's the negative feminine. And we can see that he becomes like this kind of hypnotized or something. He becomes all crazy. So that means that he is possessed by the anima, because, you know, divine inspiration from the anima, that's perfect, you know. But once it goes too far, once the man becomes obsessed with her, with this divine inspiration, with the anima, then it's not healthy anymore. And then we can see, like, the anima, his ideal, is suddenly a witch, but she's disguised as a beautiful woman with a beautiful divine voice. But it's not that anymore. She's a witch, and she's tricking him. And you can see that he's not really himself anymore, and he's bewitched, and he can't really think for himself anymore. He can't think clearly anymore. And then at one point, then Ursula becomes the ugly sea witch again. But then she grows. She takes the crown and the fork of King Triton. And because of this contract, you know, because, you know, that's what the devil does. It's not like he steals it, but the devil doesn't steal, but he tricks people. So she makes the king sign this contract in which she becomes like the king, the most powerful. And then she grows really big, and she comes out of the water. And the water, as we know, the ocean, is the unconscious. And then she grows out of it. She becomes this huge monster, and that's also anima possession. And maybe even a psychosis, you could say. And what she does then is she brings up all these ships, sunken ships, but that's actually like material from the unconscious that you should just leave there. You know, it has no place in the conscience anymore, because, you know, it's like all rotten and it's been there for ages, so let's just leave it there. But she brings it up, and that's what happens during a psychosis. Or at least I don't really know this, because I never experienced a psychosis. This is what I think happens, that all these things from the unconscious that you should just leave there, they suddenly come to the conscience, and that's what we call hallucinating. Hallucinating is actually that you can see all the things from your unconscious, and you can experience them because they've been brought up to the conscience. So yeah, and that's what she does with all these ships. Everything comes up, so it's a kind of psychosis of what's happening. And then Eric, he uses a ship to pierce through this monster, through Ursula. And that's also what we usually see when you want to defeat evil. You should use the evil itself to turn it against itself. So he uses a ship that she actually brought up herself. You know, it's not like he just went to take his own ship. No, he takes a ship that's actually part of her, part of the psychosis, and then he pierces through her, and then she dies. Yeah, and then eventually he finds out that, well, Ariel is actually the divine inspiration, and she's the positive thing. And so the obsession ends, the psychosis ends, and then it's just the masculine and the feminine that find each other, and they are being united. Then new life is possible, creation is possible. If you like this explanation and you want to gain an understanding of your own unconscious in the same kind of way, then please visit my website, and you can book a Zoom session with me, and then maybe we will see each other soon.